There's zillions of plums. Just don't know what to do with them all. The lawn is covered with them. I mean, I'll make some jam, but you can't use them all in making jam. They all need picking. So I'm going to use that prop. Hold that branch up so it doesn't break off. And these are the green gauges, they never do very well. Yeah. Hundreds all over the lawn. I don't think they're drought, I think they need plenty of water. And we didn't have water for weeks in the late spring. I think that didn't help. Well, the buddleia is at last covered in butterflies, mainly small tortoise shells. A lovely blue border they've got on there. It's absolutely alive with them. These beans all doing well. Black, green, yellow. But they all end up green after you get them in the pan. They're really nice because they're stringless. The Bromley apples are doing amazingly well. Absolutely huge. There are very few rowan berries left. The blackbirds have cleaned them all off. There are lots of blackberries ready to pick. Yeah, and more of the oak trees are beginning to produce acorns. This one in particular. And this little dwarf spruce tree has done well this year. Lots of new foliage on it. Lots of haws on the hawthorn. Winter food for the birds. And these are Cox's pippin. They never do terribly well, even when you thin them right out. They never get very big, and they suffer from splitting in the drought. But they do taste lovely. And a crisp, sweet pippin taste. Well, a couple of big jobs still to do in the garden. This sort of wildflower meadow bit needs cutting before it lies flat. But we've had some pretty wet weather overnight recently. So wait till we get 2 or 3 days of dry weather before we tackle this. And of course the hedges need cutting again. This will be their final cut of the year. What that is, whether it's a moth or a butterfly, if it's a moth, it's out during the day on this last of the buddleia, the peacock. One of the problems of wildflower meadows is that you have to cut it, and then having cut it, you've then got to get rid of a huge pile of grass. And this is the last job in the garden, is to cut this. Here's the colchicumbers, the autumn flowering crocuses, leaves in the summertime, flowers in the autumn. They do like it for the pollen. Sort of moth-like creature again. I wonder if it's a hummingbee hawk moth, but it doesn't look big enough, and it doesn't fly like one either. Yeah, they aren't butterfly antennae, those. This is definitely a moth. It's the 4th of September, and it's the last of the hedges. I think I've been cutting hedges for weeks. It's a breezy day, but quite cool, ideal conditions for this. And then all the lawns and paths need cutting, and that wildflower meadow bit needs cutting as well. It's all cool. And then maybe I'll get time to go back on the bank and do a bit of fishing. There's a freshly emerged red admiral. What a beautiful thing that is. velvet on the wings. And a stunning thing. Well, I just picked some tasty morsels from the garden. Just put those plums on top of those blackberries there and smother them in custard. The beans I'll have later. I'm sure it's all very healthy. Well, it's Saturday, I think it's the 10th of September. Just watch the St Leger. These are the plums. I'm not making as much plum jam as usual. This will do. I don't know what will be in there, £10 maybe. We'll see. That's a bit of plum jam which I made yesterday and last night. It's nice to know when you get up in the morning that it's set. So this is the last little bit of plum jam which I made last night. And it's nice to get up in the morning and I just turn it sideways. And it stays where it is. It's set. Wonderful. I mean, sometimes it isn't, and you have to tip the whole lot back into the pan and start again. But that'll do very nicely, thank you. Well, collected what was left of the plums and just made it into some jam, so I think it's £20 there. That'll do us. And while I'm cooking, I'll cook some hemp. See if I can break this big long line of blanks for the barbel. I've just pressure cooked up some hemp there for fishing. Hopefully it'll bring more success, but you can never tell. You fell out of fashion did these things, pressure cookers. All ended up in a bin. Yeah, I've still got mine. And it works really well. Little baskets inside there for the individual vegetables. Yeah, 60 years old this year. I'm not sure I'd be wanting to cook any vegetables in it now. But it's great for doing hemp, for fishing. Put a little bit of water in the bottom, or it depends what you're cooking. And put the lid on tight, and you leave these up, these weights. And as soon as steam starts coming out this little hole here, you put them on. Eventually the pressure builds up. These get lifted up slightly and the steam comes out there. And the temperature is higher than for normal boiling water, with it being at higher pressure. I can remember somebody not familiar with pressure cookers, when it had finished, decided to let the steam out of here without letting it cool down, I can't remember what was in here, but it was orange coloured. I think it was something to do with tomatoes. And it came out of there, scalding hot, at high pressure, and plastered his kitchen ceiling, which sprayed it everywhere. What a terrible mess. So you almost leave those on until it cools down. You can cool it down just by putting it under the tap. I think it was microwaves that did for pressure cookers. Well, the main job of the day. Now all the hedges are cut. And the grass has been cut. Is to cut this little bit of wildflower meadow behind me. It's not so much the cutting, it's the getting rid of the stuff. And this year it's particularly thick. So it's out with the old Halco side mower. I'm just taking it out of the garage. It pulls. It's been sitting there for 12 months. Second pull it started up. That's what you want with a machine. You don't want to be driving on, pulling on that cord. So there you can see just how thick this is. It's quite a windy day today as well. But let's get it cut. It probably used to be dry for a couple of days, so we might get this dried off before we have to carry it away. Well, the hazard of this business just disturbed this little mouse's nest or vole's nest. Fortunately, it's in a little hollow, so it's got 3 young in, so I've covered it up. When I've done this next run, I'll cover it up with some thick grass, which will give them some cover. Hopefully they will survive. Well, that's it cut. It's just taken me just over an hour to do. I'll just leave it to dry off now. Hopefully it won't rain. If it gets wet, that will really be a nuisance. And then it's all to carry away. Those of you who are thinking of having a wildflower meadow, this is the downside. Unless you've got grazing animals to put on it, a horse or two. I'm reminded of the lines in Robert Burns' poem To a Moose. After he'd ploughed up a mouse's nest. A wee bit hussy to it ruins, its silly wars the winds are strewing, and nothing now to build a new one. Oh, fog is green, and bleak December winds ensuing, both snell and keen. Fortunately it's not December, it's September. This is quite a nice day. And there you are, you can see just how thick some of this stuff is. The machine coats it very well. One of the things about wet grasslands like that is amphibians get in there, frogs and toads and newts, as well as mice. And their strategy when endangered is to just stand perfectly still. So what they do is they sort of hunker down. This machine cuts very close to the ground, so what I'm going to have to look at is just see if I can raise the front a little bit. It's at maximum height now, but I'm sure I can do something about that, so the frogs in particular aren't in any danger. But fortunately, no hedgehogs. There's a really rough patch here. I'll just, while I've got the machine out, I'll just give it a quick haircut. Well, that looks a bit better. Well, the day after cutting, I've turned it all over so the underside will dry off. But then you have to get rid of it. You have to cart it all off somewhere. Well, it's a glorious day. All this grass has dried off very nicely. So the job of the day is to cart it all up to the top of the woodland. Well, that's the last of them. It's taken just over an hour and a half, which is not bad. And that little Alcoa Scythemore has made a good job of this. Yeah, really pleased. Well, that's it, all in one big heap. It'll sit there until we get a north wind, and I'll set fire to it. The north wind takes the smoke across open countryside rather than blowing it all over the houses, which upsets the neighbours. But we don't get north winds very often here. And this is the thornless blackberry. They're a bit tart, a bit sour, but nice in pies with a bit of apple. You see, there's no thorns on it, unlike that other one over the edge, which is an absolute brute. When you're growing French beans, or beans of most descriptions runner beans, you get far more than you ever need. Even with, probably 20 plants here. So they need picking, blanching and freezing. And you have to do it quickly, otherwise they get spoiled. This is the the very thorny bramble. Produces nice brambles and lots of them. But the thorns on there. Well, the wind is in the right direction. It's a lovely dry day. Time to burn all this garden rubbish. Well, just the last of this pile of grass to burn, which is a relief. There's another great heap over there to go out as well. Whether I'll get both of them done today, I've no idea. We'll see. The thing about grass fires is they make a hell of a lot of smoke. Boston ivy put on a good display. And it hasn't spread quite so far up the end of the house compared with the other end. Oh, lovely colour. Yeah, some picking beastie taking an interest in the Bramley apples. He just takes one peck of them, decides he doesn't like them, but the apple is then spoiled. It'll be blackbirds. So I have to pick these bramleys before it damages any more. And these are the cocktish pippins, glowing in the sunshine. The Boston ivy on this side of the house, facing south, is putting on a wonderful display. It doesn't last long. Well, it's the 11th of October, I think. Boston ivy. Beginning to show that wonderful colour. It's not darker on this side of the house than on the other side. You can see it's covering the windows and all that's to come off, that lighter stuff at the top, which is this year's growth. It's the 18th of October and everything's beginning to turn now. Boston ivy here, it's all a glorious mixture of oranges and reds and deep reds. Look at it. It's covering half the windows. If I come round to this side of the house, it's totally different. And yet it's the same plant. It's all one plant, this. It's a real nuisance to cut it back every year, but it is a magnificent sight. They're glorious. Crouching on the roof up there. It won't be for long. The Boston ivy on this side of the house, it's shed its leaves. Apart from the new growth produced this year. Of course they all pile up everywhere. But there's no point clearing them away until they're all off. Otherwise you do it every week. These are the bray birds, ready to pick. They're a lovely eating apple and they keep for a long time. This is one of the 4 red oaks. They don't do very well in this soil, which is a shame really, because they look magnificent in the autumn. But all 4 of them are struggling. Well, the trees are beginning to turn now. In a couple of weeks they should be quite magnificent, especially the maples. They've got that bright yellow and orange. But they're not quite there yet. Well, 1 or 2 are. I find it quite strange because some of the maples have already turned bright yellow, and yet this one is still all green. And only cats using the garden as a toilet, the badgers are. But at least it's not on the lawn, or it's not on the vegetable patch. These are the huge Bramley apples. They're beginning to fall off now. I need to pick them. And again, they keep for a long time. A cooking apple. Oh, there we are. I've picked a Braeburn. I've never been as big as this ever. They're enormous. Oh, the size of them. But they'll keep. And these are the Cox's pippins. They never come to very much. The birds like them, so when we get the hard weather, I can feed the birds with them. The blackbirds, in particular, like them. There's a spindle tree, that lovely pinkish orange foliage with these lovely strange pink fruits, which have bright orange seeds in them. Lots of unpicked brambles. They're finished now. The birds will like them. A great mass of ivy flowers. Usually they're covered with wasps. I can only see a sort of solitary hoverfly. Maybe it's a honeybee. Strange how they flower at this time of year. You can even smell them. And there's a solitary Himalayan balsam, which I've obviously the seeds of which I obviously brought back when I've been fishing. It just shows how easy it is to transfer these invasive species from one place to another. Well, we have 6 pheasants in the garden this morning. Cock pheasant and 5 hen pheasants. Very plain compared with a male counterpart. More and more of them have arrived. Oh, there's 3 cock pheasants now. I'm not surprised they're wary, man, it's a shooting season. Oh, there's 4 cock pheasants. Well, there's 12 of them. That one there really stands out. Look at that. He's got indigestion.